Hey everyone, Richard Metal Fan here, bringing you guys a brand new 2018 album review. And as you can see below the title, today we're going to be looking into the new album Diluvium by the band Obscura, which was released today through Relapse Records. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with Obscura, they're a technical progressive death metal band hailing all the way from Germany. These guys have been around since 2002. I discovered Obscura through, I think a friend of mine told me about them. I went and checked out their stuff, really dug what I heard. And we'll start off with their albums. I mean, their debut album called Retribution was released, I believe, in 2006, which I think it's an okay album. In my opinion, I thought it was their weakest album, but it's still somewhat enjoyable. And then their second album, which was released in 2009, which was Cosmogenesis, which in my opinion is probably my favorite Obscura album. It's a classic in like progressive death metal or just progressive music in general. It's just really that good. Their 2011 album Omnivium, which I thought was a really good album as well. Well, if I had an albums of the year list of 2011, then I think Omnivium would be in that list. I think it's another good album of theirs. And of course, their previous album, which came out in 2016, there was Acroasis. And you can see there was sort of like a 5-year gap between Omnivium and Acroasis. And it was around that time where the band had some lineup changes. It started with their bass player, Gironi, I believe. He left, and then he's replaced by, their current bassist, Lion Klausenthizer. And I think he's a really good bassist. And then the last couple of years, their drummer, Hans Grossman, left, and then he was replaced by Sebastian Lanzer. And then their lead guitar player, I forget his name, Tom something, is then replaced by Rafael Trujillo. And I was kind of like curious to know how the new members would sound with their previous album, Acroasis. And in my honest opinion, I was kind of surprised. Like they filled in those shoes really well. And then here we are in 2018 with the release of the band's fifth overall album, Diluvium. Does it sort of like live up or exceed sort of like expectations to what Acroasis has? In my honest opinion, I think it definitely has. I feel like this album is kind of like a little bit different, and I feel like they decided to explore different stuff. Production-wise, I mean, this album is just like spot on. Just the vocals from sorry, I can't even speak today. Sorry, the vocals from Stefan Kumar is just really just gruff. It just his vocals are just great. It's just, and the guitar wise, Stefan and Raphael's like leads and guitar playing is just spot on. The bass playing is definitely audible from Linus. You could definitely hear it well. And Sebastian's just drumming is just really great. But yeah, without further ado, let's dive into this album track by track. And we'll start off with the first song being Clandestine Stars, which is a rippin' album opener. If you sort of like pay close attention to this song, is sort of like your first cue that the band decided to explore like depths of production not conventional for the genre. I mean, at first glance, it's anyone's guess that the band has returned to its sort of like aggressive riff-rich music, but it's not really the case here anymore on this album. But the music isn't like aggressive for the sake of being like metal and for the sake of the sheer aggression. Aggression in the music is the slightest hint of any affiliation of the band's musical past. Well, the music is super fast and technical, but it doesn't like translate to sort of like the brute aggression and skill, and as far as like the norm of being metal goes, it's sort of like a fresh sound that I can't put my finger on. And then we go into the next song on here, which is Emergent Evolution, which just seems to slowly take my experience back to the first album that really got me into this band, which would be Cosmogenesis, and sort of like bits here and there. And Linus's bass work is very similar to his successor, to the previous bassist Jerome's playing. And Raphael's lead sort of like adds a flavor of melody far from like the typical metal vibe. And the newer sonic sensations and joy of listening to the band begin to make itself more evident now. Then we go into the title track of the album, Diluvium, which has a very modern metal flair to it. Like Stefan's vocals had sort of like hit a new high on this one. His vocals have sort of like come a long way from the debut till now. now, and it just seems to get better and better with this each album. And Sebastian's drumming is incredibly tight, and it seems to be the biggest driving factor in sort of like the band's new sound on here. And this song is very evocative of the band's play with sort of like dark textures in their music. Then we go into Mortification of the Vulgar Son, which in my opinion is probably the darkest sounding song off this record. The band's approach of writing progressive rhythm sections is just mind-blowing. This song has some very wonderful guitar leads that sort of act as not seen so far on the record. And this song is just full of wonderful bass lines. Like Linus, in my opinion, one of the best bassists I've ever heard. Ethereal Skies, I mean, this is pretty much the band's return to sort of like symphonic elements and string sections, all accompanied by sort of like a very modern sounding approach to sort of the metal music. The song just sounds so epic, and the transitions are almost flawless and satisfying. It is important to remember that the orchestral music isn't Obscura's core, so there's a lot of stake to make this song fit right. Next song on here, Convergence, another great song. I just think it's pretty good. Like, all these songs sound pretty tight, in my opinion. And then we go into probably butcher this, Ekpyrosis, which is essentially a lead guitar and bass paradise. While the song carries forward with the album vibe so far, but this song has one of the best guitar solos and bass work that seems to fit sort of like the newer direction that Obscura has going around, as well as like Stefan's vocals are just simply awesome. One thing brilliant about Sebastian's works on the drumming on this entire album is sort of like the fills. Whenever he plays his fills, it's just the fills is just the one thing that really stands out on this song. All right, moving on to the Seventh Aeon, which I only have one little nitpick. I really wish this would have been, they would have like switched this song and this song forward. That would be track 7, Seventh Aeon. That's just like a weird little nitpick thing. But anyway, back to the actual song, Seventh Aeon, which opens up with a very nice drum fill, though I might assume it's not amongst the technically most difficult as far as Sebastian's writing goes. And this song has some wonderful climactic sections in the music that complement every nuance of the music. And the lead section of this song flows really well, sort of like emotion and grace to it. The Conjuration this song is just mind-blowing. It's sort of like that old Obscura aggression returning with sort of like newer tricks up its sleeve. And the low and massive guitar tones and the ready to kill rhythm sections makes this song really just absolutely killer. And the lead guitar cry is in screeches here. It's an absolute mayhem. Like, just, hey, where was this when Obscura so far in this album? Then we go into an epilogue to infinity. Sounds like one of those songs that start off with a climactic ending thing, an apt start to an end of an album. The song is pretty fucking metal with a sort of like classic chugging sections in case of one, if you're all missing it. And some sections of the song makes a selection of the album very darker than sort of like the rest of this, or spooky to say the least. And the song is a return to everything about the band you missed, despite enjoying this album so far. And then we go into A Last Farewell, which I think is kind of a ironic title, being for a song being the last song on here. And it's sort of like a harmony and texture-rich, ambient, and fretless bass solo. And it's just very peaceful, and it's dark to end this album, and sort of like the 4-album cycle, and more so ends at times. Talk about. Sorry, I can't even speak today. Now, overall, Diluvium by Obscura, I believe, is sort of like the new chapter for Obscura, like doing like different things musically, technically, and even just a different approach in like songwriting and stuff. So if I were to give this album a score, I'd probably give this a solid 8.5 out of 10. It's a pretty good album. I think it's pretty much will be one of my albums of 2018. So yeah, that's my review of the new Obscura album, guys. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about it, and I'll see you all in the next video, and keep it metal.